Switch gears on you guys again. All right, we've talked about the insurance model, the medical model of mental health. We've talked here about the venture capital model of mental health. So, to you guys, what does quality mental health look like? Mental health care look like to you? And I'll start with Yolanda.
So I could go on and on about what I believe is quality mental health care, but I will say that I believe quality mental health care is well thought out and intentional. It's a therapist who's highly trained and continually looking for ways to improve their clinical skill and their clinical services to you. And that means that we intentionally leave some room for that training, for that clinical development, for that taking our policies and procedures into account to say, how can I tweak this and make this even a better experience, a more healing experience, a more depth experience for the people that I'm sitting across, so that we can bring the greatest amount of hope, growth, and healing through this therapy experience.
Tabitha, you want to go next?
Sure. I mean, first of all, your information is protected, right? Like, there's no hidden charges either. So, like, I like to say we're the least surprising group of individuals ever, because we're going to give you an informed consent that says, here's what you're going to pay. This is it. And so there's not anything hidden. We're not selling your stuff. We're bound by ethics to keep everything confidential. I like to say to folks that come see me, like, we're like Las Vegas. What happens here stays here, except for like the things that we have to report, right? Like, so you're safe within these spaces and walls. And like Yolanda was saying, we practice in a way that meets the needs of the client. So, it's therapy is not one size fits all by any means. It's what does this person need? And so for a client, we may do some trauma reprocessing using EMDR. We might use brain spotting, or we may even bring art into it. Whatever's going to work for that particular client, we're going to do. And we have the freedom to do that in a good therapeutic situation, and also honoring people as people, right? Your autonomy isn't, as the kids say, yeeted when you come into the room, right? You still remain your personhood and your ability to make decisions. And if you're like, I always tell my clients, like, hey, if you think that this, like, you're like, dude, Tabitha, you have lost your mind. Tell me, let's talk about it. Maybe I haven't, and I have a really good reason for what we're doing, and we can talk about it, and you have input on how this goes. Like, I'm not a dictator, and we get to do this together and take this amazing journey together. And I think that's one of the hallmarks of what good therapy looks like. We're a team.
What about you, Erika? You want to talk about it a little bit?
Well, I think quality therapy is being with a therapist who will use the word yeeted. We know Tabby's a great therapist. In that vein, I think, that's part of it for me, is being in relationships with an authentic person. So I know that I might not use the word yeeted, but I've definitely given a good curse word here and now in session, right? And I think that good therapy is spacious, if I had to put like one word on it. So I think, having time to go through these things, to do a thorough assessment, right? Not a 45-minute, okay, now I know everything about you that I need to make this really big decision about your care. No, we can take 10 sessions if we need to. We can take 20 sessions if we need to. We have the space and we have the room for that. And I think, to Tabby's point as well, like, for me, it's about asking clients, what's working for you? What's not working for you? How am I showing up? How do you perceive me? I'm going to give them feedback about how I perceive them. A lot of here and now work. And I think that asking them about those outcomes, like, is this actually doing anything for you? And if it's not, let's change it. Or if I'm not the right person, let's change that. I think being dedicated to, like, I want you to heal no matter where that is or what that looks like. And so we can make adjustments here. And that's huge.
Yeah. All right, Rebecca, what about you?
Yes to everything that's been said already. And, good therapy is a relationship that you can trust with a real human. And, Erika mentioned the stat earlier that 60% of the effectiveness of therapy, regardless of the modality, is about the relationship that happens between the therapist and the client. So whether you're there for coercive control or couples therapy or trauma or eating disorders or any substance use, any of the other, like the particular presenting problems or the skill of the therapist, you have to have a relationship with the person. And that's a huge part of what makes therapy work. And so that's why it's a problem for us that in some other models, you don't get as much choice in who your therapist is, or your therapist may or may not have the right skills for you, or they may just ghost you or whatever, because we know that that's what makes therapy work. And that real relationship includes that because I'm here as your therapist and so dedicated to your healing, I'm going to challenge you sometimes, and that might make you feel uncomfortable. And I'm going to also stay with you through those uncomfortable feelings if it's for your own good. And like was mentioned a couple of times already, if part of that relationship is if I can see that this isn't helping you, I'm not just going to abandon you, or I'm not going to continue doing something that doesn't work. I'm going to learn the skills I need to, or I'm going to help you find the right person if I'm not the right person. And therapy is also individualized, good therapy. So I'm going to make a treatment plan that is specific to you. If I give you a worksheet, it's because that's what I think is going to help in your healing, not because this is the same worksheet that I give everybody. Because if that stuff was all that you needed, you could pick up a workbook. You could read a book and you would get it.
Yeah.
But that isn't enough. You have to have a relationship with a real human who you feel that you can trust. And that's where all of this other stuff comes back together. Your relationship isn't with the insurance company. Your relationship shouldn't be with the tech company. That's why it matters when the therapist returns your phone call or has a staff member who can return your phone call. That's why it matters if your therapist is available to you, or if you're the 10th client of the day. That's where all of that stuff shows up, because if I'm always my therapist's 10th or 12th client of the day, maybe they're less attentive. Maybe they don't remember details about me, and that impacts my ability to trust them. And so my therapy will be less effective.
Sure.
So yeah, that's what good therapy is.
Yeah. And I think the willingness to have that time and space. So like all of these pieces and have those conversations of, what do you want to be different? How will your life look differently at the end of therapy that's going to bring lifelong change? What are the things that you're going to gain from therapy that you're going to carry with you throughout the rest of your life? Not just what's going to help alleviate what's happening right now. That's included in that bigger picture, but that's not the primary focus. This is. That's what I think is quality therapy.
And truthfully, therapy changes not just the person sitting in front of us, but everyone else they touch. I always say that, we're changing the world one relationship at a time. I see a client and they become a better, healthier mother, father, sister, brother, son, and then they go out and they take that with them. And then, these things that may have gone on in families that are generational. I love me a good genogram, which is basically a souped up family tree with all your problems to define it. In all the ways relationship hasn't worked for you. But when we break those generational curses, if you will, it changes everything. It changes the lives of future generations. We're all, if we want to get real meta about it, we're all impacting each other's DNA just through the relationships that we're in. And real healing comes in community. And that community can start with us, and then you take it out with you, and then you are changing relationships because you're healthier. And that's an amazing place. That's a beautiful thing. I can't tell you how many times we've had whole families change. And I know we all can say this through the work that we've done, that whole families have been changed because we saw maybe one person, or we saw a couple, and something completely shifted.
That's awesome.
I think therapy is one of the few places where you get to focus on these strengths, right? There's not a lot of other places where we're getting direct feedback from somebody that may not always be comfortable, but that, the therapist can reframe that and say, okay, well, how can we take your strengths that you already possess, that already exist within you, to be able to show up differently, to engage in your life differently, to engage in your relationships differently. And that's a pretty cool, unique experience that I don't know I've ever had in other relationships, maybe other than with you all. So
I agree. And I think that good therapy also shifts the paradigm of the way that we look at mental health in this country. When you think of these deeper lasting changes, and, I know as a trauma therapist, there was a big, for a long time that it's not possible to heal from trauma, but it is, right? And good therapy is an indication of that lifelong change. Good therapy is an indication that I don't have to learn just coping skills for my anxiety. I can figure out what's underneath the anxiety. Good therapy is, there's something deeper than just my partner and I not having good communication skills, right? So it starts to shift the paradigm of how we look at mental health, and really mental and emotional and relational and spiritual wellness.
Right. And, we're finding more and more that not only does mental health help your mental health, but it helps your physical health. And so good therapy can also impact you physically. And I can't tell you how many survivors of abuse I have worked with who've gotten healthy and in different places. And all of a sudden, all these autoimmune things that they were struggling with aren't as hard. Now, they may not go away, but suddenly their bodies are functioning better. Their hair stops falling out. All of these things that happen, and you're like, wow. And we realize how much our mind, bodies, and souls are connected to each other. And we are healing not just your mind and your emotions, but your whole self. And that's such a beautiful, beautiful thing to bear witness to, and also for the people who are experiencing it.
I mean, I think on that note, you might as well just drop the mic and and call it done. I mean, I don't know. I think it's a perfect way to end this conversation today. And Tabby, Becca, Erika, Yolanda, this is really, really cool to sit down and talk to you guys and just kind of work through this a little bit. I hope this is something that can be used, that people can kind of watch and kind of say, oh, this is what good therapy looks like. This is what these things look like and that look like. So I really appreciate you guys' time today and doing this. And maybe we'll do it again down the road.